Now, the problem is that when it comes to mental health, the role magnesium plays then is in the brain.
Yeah.
So that one of the things that has confounded magnesium researchers who are looking for the mental health angle with magnesium is that you can raise the blood magnesium levels to normal. The serum levels, you do a blood test, find out how much magnesium is there. Oh, it's normal. But that does not ensure. In fact, it has almost no relationship at all to the magnesium levels in the brain. Okay, hey everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
And welcome back to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. This is podcast episode 152, Depression and the Brain, a 100-year-old forbidden remedy.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about some forbidden stuff that's been hidden from you for more than a century.
What we're going to talk about is a 100-year-old remedy for depression.
Yay.
And we have resurrected this forbidden remedy that the pharmaceutical industry would just rather you not know about.
Keep away from you.
Yes, they would rather you use their drugs.
Yes.
And this is a remedy, in contrast to those drugs, this is a remedy with no suicidal or homicidal side effects that you get from those drugs, as the current drug cocktails for depression contain in their product inserts.
It just always astounds me when it says the side effects could be suicide.
And some of them are black labeled inserts,
they're so dangerous.
which means they have a big black square around the warning.
Yeah.
Most of them don't have that. This one does.
So this is a very important podcast.
Yes.
The truth pops up every 20 or 30
Yes,
years.
doesn't it?
Yeah. Then they keep redefining it. We keep rediscovering things. Everybody thinks when they find it that they're the original ones.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Look what I found.
Yeah.
Look what I found.
But they're wrong.
Wait a minute.
Well, this is just like the enzyme treatment of cancer.
Yes.
Remember, it keeps reappearing every 30 years or so, and then it disappears, and then it reappears. And so we're hoping to keep the forbidden information alive about enzymes and cancer with our long life energy enzymes.
Yes.
So we want to remind you to be sure to stay to the end of this podcast for a really great coupon. We don't offer them very often, so this is really cool.
No, we really don't.
No, we haven't for quite a while.
No.
So, and another thing, today's podcast is jam-packed with information, and we don't want you to miss any part of it. So it's filled with a ton of research and incredible stories of healing. So we're going to leave it here for 2 weeks to give you time to listen, digest, and share it with others before we do another podcast. You got 2 weeks to listen to this podcast.
Right. But before we get to that for our regular listeners, the next 4 minutes is our financial stuff.
Yeah.
So you can fast forward through it if you choose, but for our new listeners, please listen at least one time so you understand how we do things around here. We want to take a few minutes to talk about why we do not have sponsors.
Yeah, we've been approached many times to sell different products on our show.
But we've always been compelled to resist these financially tempting offers because the work we're doing here is just too important to be beholden to some brand names who could object or even try to gain editorial control over some of the forbidden things that we say.
Yeah, so we would never allow this kind of advertising on our show.
And others have mentioned that while the knowledge we share cannot be found anywhere else, it is often tied to products such as the whole food supplements from the oldest nutritional company in America, Standard Process, which we often reference during our shows.
And this also would include our own ageless thyroid and long life energy enzymes.
Yeah, and so you might ask, could not our own products be creating conflicts of interest? I mean, have we mistakenly created an infomercial instead of free knowledge podcasts?
No. We do this on purpose.
Yes, we do. Years of experience in our clinics. And almost 500,000 downloads of our podcasts have taught us a few things. And the most important is that the type of nutrient-dense foods most of us need to get our bodies actually healing from years of malnutrition are not easily integrated in most of our lives.
Yeah, the quest for excellence in nutrition has never been an easy endeavor.
Yeah, no one wants to eat raw liver, but absolutely no one is going to sign up to eat raw liver daily for 6 months if that's what it's going to take.
Well, some people will. A patient of ours found she was told she had only a few months to live, and refusing that notion, she went home and threw some liver in a blender with a few spices and drank that every day for months.
Yes.
She lived very well for another 20 years.
Yeah, I met her more than 20 years ago when we were both doing a radio show at the same station.
But many people will not do that.
Well, no.
Yeah.
No, so let us be clear. we reference one-of-a-kind whole food supplements from the nutrition company Standard Process because this is a way to realistically nourish ourselves with the whole food and organ meats we would never eat on a daily basis.
And the reason we do our podcast this way is because it has saved our lives and countless others that we've worked with over the years.
So we sell supplements, and we try to give free knowledge away about how nutrition touches every aspect of our lives, and so necessarily these two overlap.
But we want to be very clear here. Some of you may feel real hardship with even a modest monthly donation and cannot afford even a single month's supply of supplements.
So please then, do not buy our supplements.
Or even try to financially support our show in any way if you cannot afford to. This free information will still be yours forever.
Yeah, of course.
And we want you to take it and use it with our blessing.
But if you like what we do at Forbidden Doctor, there are several ways you can still support us.
Yeah, you can leave a positive comments or reviews on our website underneath the podcasts or on iTunes or YouTube, or like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter or on Instagram. That type of support for us is free. It costs you nothing, and we would greatly appreciate it, and it would greatly help our mission.
Yeah. So if you're ready to take your first steps for your own health, take our free symptom survey and let our nutrition specialists develop a personalized protocol for you. And then try some of these one-of-a-kind whole food supplements for yourself.
Yeah, there's a link for this free survey on the very top red bar on every page of our website, forbiddendoctor.com.
Now, if you already support our show, thank you.
Yes.
And please know that you are the very reason we fight this good fight. Your support makes this all possible. Mm-hmm. So now, on with the things they don't want you to know.
Yes.
And we'd also like to read a comment that somebody left on our YouTube channel concerning our podcast number 91, The Dangers of Vegan and Vegetarian Diets. And yes, I said YouTube. Actually, we've been there for a while, and you can see the videos there, but only if you search Jack Stockwell.
Not Forbidden Doctor.
Yes, Jack Stockwell. Then click on my pretty picture if you go there. And believe me, I'm not the Scoot and Skates channel that's right underneath my name.
There's a lot of Jack Stockwell YouTube channels, but just click on his pretty picture. You'll find it. Okay, we just want to read this. Was a comment on podcast 91 on vegetarianism. And he says, back in the late 90s in high school, I tried to become vegetarian for almost a year. I ate nothing with a face. I developed severe stomach ulcers, vitamin deficiency, hormone imbalance, and my hair was turning gray as a teenager. All because PETA had me thinking I was a monster. I'm almost 40 now, and I'm still learning about nutrition because there's so much bad information out there. This podcast was very helpful for me and my friend. My friend is entering a custody battle for his 4-year-old child because the mother has been forcing the kid to be vegan and showing him videos of pig slaughters to scare him out of eating meat.
That is child abuse, pure and simple.
She showed him the movie Thousand Eyes. I haven't seen this, but it must be awful.
Yeah.
So she showed him the movie Thousand Eyes at 3 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
Poor kid. His father feeds his son meat, otherwise he would be malnourished like the vegan mom. With the YouTube reinforcing our confirmation biases, she has gone far down the rabbit hole, I'm afraid. All the bad info out there is causing extreme beliefs devoid of all logic and critical thinking. Thank you for putting this out there.
Now, let me ask you a question, because you said it, I think, in the second sentence, I developed stomach ulcers.
Mm-hmm. Severe stomach ulcers.
Why? What causes a stomach ulcer? H. pylori. How do you make sure H. pylori is destroyed and doesn't proliferate in the stomach?
It's a bacteria, and they discovered this. See, this is rediscovering. Dr. Roy Lee discovered this. He should have won the Nobel Prize for it, but somebody else discovered it.
Somebody else did 50 years later.
And see, if you don't have hot stomach acids, you can't kill
That's the point
the
I want to make.
pylori.
Will a salad give you hot stomach acids? No.
No, it's so backwards from everything. And if you've been listening to us for quite a while, you understand that we are not recommending vegetarianism or veganism.
Yes.
So let's get started talking about depression and this 100-year-old remedy.
Away with the show, as old Jack Gleason used to say. All right, so who knew that depression, now the mental state of depression, not financial depression, is the world's leading cause of disability. It is a major contributor to the overall disease burden on humanity, on the entire planet. So says the World Health Organization.
The WHO.
This year, in March 2018 at Geneva, this is the title of their paper. Quote, depression is the leading cause of disability around the entire planet.
Wow. So depression is the worst problem we have, actually. So to treat the entire body holistically, you have to take that into account, no matter what disease you or problem you have. Because after all, if a person has experienced depression, I mean, that's going to have a major influence on whatever physical problem they have.
Yeah.
It's going to impact everything.
Yeah, and we've known about this relationship between the mineral magnesium and depression since the turn of the 20th century. So since the end of the 19th century and early 20th century, we've had articles written associating depression with magnesium.
So that's the end of the that's the end of the 1800s
Yes.
into the 1900s.
Yes.
So we have our first written up accounts of doctors noting magnesium deficiency and depression in the very first early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote, this is so sad, they wrote that they were hoping more would be discovered as time went on about this. But
Nice.
no.
Nice, honest researchers.
Yep, it didn't.
So this was reported in the early version of the Journal of Psychiatry, which, by the way, changed its name in the early 1920s from the Journal of Insanity to the Journal of Psychiatry.
They should, back then they probably had the Journal of Hysteria. They always said women were hysterical.
Oh, yeah. Well,
but that's hilarious. Journal of Insanity.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they had that now?
Well, it should be that now. And words do change. I mean, but depression is the number one leading cause of disability, according to the WHO, around the world and in the United States.
Yeah, and the National Center for Health Statistics, and the last year that we have statistics from them, 2014, they said 13% of people that are 12 years old and older take antidepressant medicine all the time.
I mean, that is amazing.
All the time.
So there have been no major breakthroughs in drugs for major depression for decades. The Paxil, the Zoloft, Prozac, they've been around 30 years now.
Wow.
Nothing has changed to speak of, and they've all stayed on this SSRI concept, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which simply allows the brain to bathe in a sea of serotonin longer than it naturally would.
Doesn't heal anything.
No, and serotonin is the neurotransmitter of consciousness.
Yeah. So there's a newly noted discovery about these drugs. Get this, drum roll. They finally noticed that these drugs raised blood cell levels of magnesium.
Yeah, now they discovered that accidentally. They're trying to figure out why these things work. They think they know why they work, which of course they don't.
Right.
The CDC's number, the FDA, you go into serious research of the SSRIs, and they're terribly ineffective. But now there's some new theories. Like you said, magnesium uptake into the red blood cells might be one of the prime ways in which what little success the SSRIs have had. And one of the big magnesium supplementation problems is that when you take a magnesium supplement, you do raise the level of magnesium in your blood.
In your blood.
They do get the serum, your blood, to carry more magnesium, but they do not, I repeat, do not raise magnesium in the most important area needed in the human body, the human brain.
Because getting magnesium across the blood-brain barrier is extremely difficult.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You want to protect that brain tissue.
For sure. So no one single form of magnesium has ever been discovered to be universally effective at getting it across the blood-brain barrier. Now, that's very important.
Right. And when we say no one single form, we're talking about the magnesium and what it is bound to. Because in nature, you don't get minerals like magnesium in some free organic form that human beings can consume. It's only in an inorganic form, the rocks.
Like rocks?
Yeah, and we can't.
Rocks.
No, we can't consume inorganic minerals. If we had big leafy green leaves and we had roots down in the ground, we could. but we can't just grind up rocks and put them in our food.
We could just get a rock grinder.
There we go. There's another thing
Every
we can put
house
on our page.
could have them, and you'd just put rocks into this rock grinder and sprinkle it all over your food.
Yeah, but that's inorganic minerals, and we can't absorb them, even though many supplement companies try to get us to believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the labels. Calcium carbonate, for instance.
You can't absorb that.
You might as well eat a stick of chalk.
Yeah, those minerals need to be put in the soil as inorganic minerals, or be in the soil as inorganic minerals, and through the action and life of the plants growing in the soil, these plants uptake the minerals into the root system of the plant, and then once they're inside the juices of the plant, the cells of the plant, it's bound with proteins to form organically bound minerals, which the animals then eat, and then we eat the animals.
Yeah, so you get your minerals either from the plant or from the animal that ate the plant.
Something that ate the plant.
Right. And you said, I think you said something about those minerals need to be put in the soil. I think you said that a second ago. I can't count the number of times patients have brought in the supplements that they're taking for me to tell them what I think. And 9 times out of 10, take these home and put them in your garden compost or put them in the soil around your garden plants.
Because it's the only way you're going to absorb them.
You won't get any value out of this till it goes through that plant first.
You'll make somebody rich.
Right. And organically bound minerals, also known as chelated minerals, because chelate comes from the Greek word meaning claw. So you can picture these proteins in a claw holding the minerals inside the claw so that these chelated or organically bound minerals can then be absorbed by the human digestion into the blood because the body recognizes that protein.
So what Standard Process has been looking for many years was a way to get demonstratively high levels of multiple forms, a bunch of different kinds of magnesium into the body and into the brain.
Yeah.
And they did it. They did it with a new product they just released 30 days ago, and it is called
Easy Mag, Easy MG.
It's E-Z, uppercase, E-Z, and then the elemental name MG for magnesium. So it's EZMG, Easy Mag.
And they found over, interestingly enough, 20 different organically bound forms of magnesium.
Well, 20 plus. They told us originally
right.
24, but they said at least, because it's a whole food product, you know. They don't count these things specifically, but they said they found 20 different organically bound forms of magnesium.
Yeah, in these...
in 2 primary foods.
Right, grown on the Standard Process's extremely mineral-rich soils in Wisconsin. And they're cold processed, then they're concentrated, then they're put into the Easy MG product.
You're getting the highest amount of organically grown minerals in these 2 plants.
Planets. Venus and Mars.
These 2 plants that they use were Swiss chard and buckwheat leaf, and they're cold processed and concentrated, so it creates the maximum absorption for your body. And this is the first time SP or Standard Process has used a stick pack.
Yeah.
It comes powdered in a little stick size pack with 1 dose per pack. You just rip off the top of either end of the little tube and pour it into some water. We pour it into water bottles, you and I, and shake it up really well.
About 4 to 5 ounces of water.
Yeah, just a little bit of water. Mix it up, drink it down. It gives you a high organically bound mineral uptake of plants, organically grown, Swiss chard, and buckwheat leaf.
Yeah, and the Standard Process growing fields are in what is known as the kettle moraine.
Now, remember when we said you either got to put it in the soil or it's got to be in the soil? Well, listen to
Nature
this.
put it in the kettle moraine. You know what a moraine is in geology. I remember in 9th grade science, and we talked about geology for a while. A moraine is where a glacier formed, then it starts moving down, and it stops eventually, and that's the point of where it begins to retreat. So when you have a glacier coming from the northern latitudes moving south, when it reaches that most southern point, which of course is created by the warmer air, but it's been crushing all the mountains and the lands in front of it.
Crushing mountains.
Yes.
Trees and land.
It carves huge holes out of the sides of these mountains
Lakes,
as it moves.
Rivers,
valleys. It crushes everything in its path. And the weight of the ice begins to retreat as the temperatures warm, as I said. And what is left behind is what is known as the moraine, M-O-R-A-I-N-E, where it has left millions of tons of glacier ground-up minerals. Ooh. So the kettle moraine is the site of the SP farms, an area of the Great Lakes in southern Wisconsin. And I have to say this. When people bring me something else they've seen in the marketplace that's dehydrated vegetables or fruits, and I ask them, where were these things grown? They usually don't know.
No.
I say, well, find out where these things were grown. Well, they're grown in some place other than glacier ground-rich minerals.
Well, Standard Process thinks they have the most healthy, rich soil in the world, not just in the United States. And they're sick about it. They're trying to buy up all the land around it because people are building houses on this land. So sad. So this is where the Standard Process farms are located. Jack and I have been there a couple of times, and it gives them an enormous depth of inorganic minerals in the soil. And these minerals absorb into these plants, which are organically grown on the farms.
Yeah.
So if you can find a farm with 8 to 12 inches of good topsoil anywhere, that's fantastic. I mean, many places have like a millimeter of topsoil, and they spray it with Miracle-Gro trying to get stuff to grow. Yeah, but with Standard Process's topsoil, you can't even dig down far enough to not have topsoil. I mean, you can go 3-4 feet, and there's still topsoil. When they had to put fence posts in, they had to dig down and put in, it's so sad, concrete on that beautiful topsoil.
Because they can't get to the bottom of the topsoil.
They can't get to it. And I saw when we were out there that the head farmer of Standard Process, and it's a woman, it's so great. So she split her hands way far apart, as far as she could, way up as tall as she could reach a hand and way down low. And she said she couldn't even reach far enough to show how deep the topsoil goes.
Yeah, and there is just this enormous depth of topsoil on the Standard Process farms because it's from a glacial formation. In fact, you'll see signs when you drive to Standard Process that say Kettle Moraine, where the historical stuff is, symbols off to the side of the road, because geologists travel there from all over the world to study this.
And they also farmers travel all over the world to see how they organically farm,
and make a profit at it.
Yeah.
So when Standard Process talks about the trace mineral abundance in their soils, they capture that mineral abundance in their organically grown plants on their farms.
Yeah, remember, even organically grown vegetables do not have to disclose the depth of their topsoil or the nutritional and mineral content of the plant. So you need to know that all products coming from Standard Process are grown in this incredibly glacier, mineral-rich soil.
And the two plants they found that captured the most magnesium were Swiss chard and buckwheat leaf.
Yeah, both have enormous roots, and those roots are very, very long and constantly growing deeper and deeper and pulling up more and more magnesium and trace minerals and other minerals all through that mineral-rich topsoil. And then they take that and they cold process it, not damaging the plants at all. This is Dr. Lee's proprietary invention, how to cold process. Nobody else has this. Cold process them into the product they just released called EZ Mag.
Yeah. Now, let's jump back a stage here.
Okay.
Before the plants got that magnesium into them, that magnesium was just elemental magnesium deep down in the soil, which is absolutely useless for human health. Magnesium chloride, that kind of stuff. And magnesium is a little more important to life on this planet than most other minerals, because think back to chlorophyll that we talked about when we did the podcast on
K2,
on vitamin
like
K2.
3 or 4 podcasts back. Yeah,
you think back to that.
We explain this. The central.
Yes,
it's the central nutritional base for life on this planet.
That's right. Everything, all nutrition is here that we have because of chlorophyll, and chlorophyll through photosynthesis creates oxygen. And that creates the food chain for the entire planet from the smallest to the biggest creatures. It is the oxygen creator on this planet which creates the environment in which life can exist. And what is at the very central molecular core of the chlorophyll molecule?
Magnesium.
Aha! In fact, magnesium and the human hemoglobin are virtually identical except for one molecular change.
Yeah, you probably know this from our other podcasts. We went into this pretty in depth. But
and chlorophyll is a magnesium-based molecule. And once inside the animal body, including the human, the magnesium is released from the center of the chlorophyll molecule by enzymes, and it's replaced with an iron molecule by enzymes.
This is why you should eat meat too, because you need that natural iron to replace that.
Yes.
molecule.
And the iron molecule that you're talking about here at the center of the chlorophyll molecule is exactly what we call hemoglobin.
Blood.
And that's what covers the red blood cell to carry oxygen, hemoglobin. So magnesium sits at the top of that threshold, and it's the fourth most abundant mineral in the body. It's been recognized as a cofactor for more than 300 enzymatic reactions.
So magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral on the planet.
Yes.
It's the third most abundant element in seawater after sodium and chlorine. So the fourth most abundant element on the earth, including oxygen, which is first oxygen, and then iron, then silicon, then magnesium. So nature has not wanted life to function without magnesium. So we can see that.
Yeah. Now the problem is that when it comes to mental health, the role magnesium plays then is in the brain.
Yeah.
So that one of the things that has confounded magnesium researchers who are looking for the mental health angle with magnesium is that you can raise the blood magnesium levels to normal, the serum levels. You do a blood test, find out how much magnesium is there. Oh, it's normal. But that does not ensure. In fact, it has almost no relationship at all to the magnesium levels in the brain.
So in other words, you can raise blood magnesium levels.
Yes.
But it will not enable it to be absorbed or cross the blood-brain barrier.
Right. So how does magnesium work in the body? Well, magnesium is essential to the basic nucleic acid chemistry of our cells. And nucleic acids, of course, are DNA and RNA.
All known living organisms.
Yes, all known living organisms have this. And more than 300 enzymes require magnesium ions for their catalytic action. In other words, for the enzymes to cut up other things to make them work, they have to have magnesium, including all the enzymes that are used or synthesized in the production of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the gasoline of our bodies.
Energy.
Yes, and those that use other nucleotides, these other processes to synthesize the DNA and the RNA in the nucleus of the cell. And the ATP molecule is normally found in a chelated form with the magnesium ion. So what these researchers have been studying now is cerebral-spinal fluid looking for magnesium that has crossed into the brain. So if you find magnesium in the cerebral-spinal fluid, which I sometimes just call CSF, but if you find it there, then you know it crossed the blood-brain barrier.
And so they find that with the spinal taps.
Yes.
Right? Because
Because the fluid that is inside the dura, that tough leathery pouch that covers your entire spinal cord, is the same leathery pouch that covers your brain. And it's filled with this fluid, cerebral-spinal fluid.
It bathes the brain.
So they can't stick a needle through your skull to pull that fluid out.
Yeah, so they can
if
check.
If they hit the wrong part of your brain, it could change your favorite color from yellow to blue. And then, what? You have to get a new furniture and new clothes and new car.
So they tap your spine to check to see if you've got magnesium in the CSF fluid.
And if it's there, then you've got magnesium in the brain. And so Standard Process has so many forms of magnesium in this new product, Easy Mag, 20 plus, as you said.
And here's the important part.
That when taken every day, it does elevate cerebral-spinal fluid magnesium, and that is the holy grail of brain magnesium research.
So it crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Yes.
So one thing to remember or examine or think about when teaching about minerals is to look at the physical properties dispassionately as a chemist. So what are the properties of magnesium?
Well, for one thing, it has an extraordinarily high combustion temperature. When magnesium burns, and it burns at the extraordinary temperature of 4,000 degrees.
4,000 degrees.
Yes, that's why woodsmen and survivalists use magnesium fire starters. You can start fires in the snow with wet wood and wet kindling.
Wow.
With magnesium. You have a magnesium fire starter.
I think you could start anything with 4,000 degrees.
Well, yeah, I think you could. Yeah. And so you have this little cylinder of pure magnesium. You have a knife edge and flint that's attached to it. You can get these at all the camping supply places.
REI and stuff.
Yeah, and you scrape off using the knife magnesium flakes because it's soft into some leaves or hollow of some bark
or some kindling,
whatever, until you have the size of about a quarter. And then while you're sitting there on the top of the bark, or leaves or whatever, about a quarter inch thick, even if the bark or leaves are wet, you take the same flint and strike it on a piece of steel, gives you a very hot spark, and that causes the magnesium to catch fire, and immediately, it doesn't have to gear up like you redline your car engine. It immediately jumps to 4,000 degrees.
So you must hit that still thing really close to that.
Yeah, because you want to control the direction of the spark.
Yeah, the quarter size magnesium. Because magnesium is really soft, you were saying?
Yeah, it's I think a hardness about 2.
Yeah, so you just scrape this magnesium off, and then you, bam, hit it with a piece of steel, and then it starts it.
Right. And here's the thing to keep in mind. One of the reasons that water burns is that it's not water anymore when it hits that temperature, because when it hits 4,000 degrees, it's not going from water to steam.
Yeah, it's too hot.
212 degrees will turn water into steam, but at 4,000 degrees, plasma levels of temperature, the water actually separates into hydrogen and oxygen, and they burn just right along with the oxidizing magnesium.
So it splits the water molecule.
Breaks it apart, yeah.
Splits it.
When you get...
So it's not water anymore.
In physics, anytime you get something warm, you're starting to cause
steam
movement.
Oh, yeah.
Movement of the molecules. Mm-hmm. And as they move against each other, they generate heat. Just like rubbing your hands back and forth. That heat is coming from friction because you have got some molecules in motion.
But 4,000 degrees.
You get them to 4,000 degrees. They actually
split apart.
Hydrogen sitting here as oxygen. I really don't like you. I'm going this way and you go that way. And then suddenly... they are explosive gases in and of themselves, and they add to the fire.
Yeah, so magnesium fire starters are second to none. So here you have magnesium, which burns at 4,000 degrees, and then we come to find that magnesium is essential for an organ in the body, which is all about electricity, all about fire, all about generation of energy, the human brain.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah.
And obviously, we don't have magnesium burning at 4,000 degrees in our brains, or we'd have a whole new meaning for the term hothead. But what we do have is that we see the properties of magnesium being put to use in the brain, and why magnesium can only get into the brain in certain forms that the brain can use.
Yeah, we don't really know. We don't know what this is, what magnesium specifically is the one that gets into the brain, because standard process, remember, is all whole food. It's all, they don't isolate out nutrients. So this is all whole Swiss chard, whole buckwheat leaf. And remember, our body is very careful about what kind of magnesium gets into the brain. So, you can't just go walk into a store somewhere, buy some magnesium product and wonder...
and think it's going to do something for your depression.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. This is what Standard Process has been working on for years. And
it might help you with your constipation, but it isn't going to help depression.
And they have through studies that their researchers, Standard Process's researchers have shown that it raises the cerebral
magnesium.
The cerebral-spinal fluid and they can check
in the magnesium in it. Yeah,
and the magnesium in the spinal fluid. So,
all right. So before we go on and talk more about magnesium, and we're going to get into some very good current research, and what kind of magnesium you need for depression, I want to bring up the free symptom survey that we offer on the homepage at ForbiddenDoctor.com. It is still the most comprehensive survey you're ever going to take. It has tons of questions, and after you're done, you have the opportunity to have a free 30-minute phone consult, and you'll be given a personalized protocol. This saves you money in the long run because you're not taking supplements you don't need, and all of this is at no charge to you.
And if you do decide to purchase the recommended personalized protocol, you can get them at a 10% discount if you sign up for a text blast. These text blasts give you fantastic coupons almost every single week that we send them out. So just text the word HEALTHY to 41411 to sign up for these. And we'll text you back a coupon which you can use on your next order at our website, ForbiddenDoctor.com, when you check out. Or you can call our office, 801-523-1890, and they can help you sign up for the text blast. And remember, your patronage of these offers keeps this podcast on the air.
All right, so back to magnesium
and
its ability to decrease depression when you get sufficient levels in the brain. So what we know is this. Way back in February of 1985, 33 years ago, a study reports about CSF and suicide attempts. And it's in the Journal of Biological Psychiatry, and it's titled, cerebral-spinal fluid, magnesium, and suicide attempts. And it's a journal of essentially psychiatric neuroscience and therapeutics, published 33 years ago, and I quote from the study. The patients who had suicide attempts by using violent or nonviolent means have significantly lower mean levels of cerebral-spinal fluid magnesium, irrespective of the diagnosis.
So the ones that had the highest levels of attempted suicide had the lowest, significantly lower magnesium levels in their cerebral-spinal fluid in their brain.
Yes.
Regardless of the diagnosis, whether it was schizophrenia, bipolar, manic depressive, regardless of the mental health issue, the ones that had the highest levels of attempted suicide had the lowest levels of brain magnesium.
Now another quote here from the study. In psychiatric patients suffering from major depression, the magnesium level in CSF was found to be significantly lower versus the control group. Patients with major depression who had made suicide attempts had particularly lower levels of magnesium in their brain.
Yeah, so they checked it. They checked their cerebral-spinal fluid.
In depressed patients with chronic pain, the level of magnesium was decreased in 67% of the cases. So when you're relating low magnesium levels to the worst possible outcome of depression, to the mentally ill and depressed people, suicide.
Yeah, that's the worst
There's
possible.
nothing after that.
Yeah, it's
I
done.
mean,
You're
suicide is the end stage of a life that is so miserable, so unable to cope, to deal with circumstances, that suicide's their better option.
So if you think that or feel like that, then something in your brain is off. And the one common denominator is the magnesium levels in the brain as measured in the CFS fluid.
There you
and
go.
they were low.
They were low. All right, here's this year, January 2018, in Psychology Today, Magnesium for Depression.
I wonder what that's about.
Written by Emily Deans, MD, a Boston psychiatrist. She says, a controlled study of magnesium shows clinically significant improvement in depression. And then she goes on, and this is really kind of cool here. She says it's the bacteria in the soils that enable plants to absorb magnesium.
Ooh, the bacteria in the soil. Hey,
Yeah, it's in her article.
Yeah, that's what McBride relates with your gut, is the soil of your body. So you got to have good topsoil.
Yeah, this is groundbreaking.
Yeah, this is. It's not even the topsoil itself. It's the bacteria in the humus of the soil.
Yes.
And a farmer will tell you that the quality of the plant is no greater than the quality of the soil.
Yes.
And the quality of the soil depends upon the presence of the bacteria. That's what's so groundbreaking about this article, that through its own life processes, it pulls the minerals in the soil into the plant.
Yeah, and all sorts of farming techniques and influences can deplete magnesium in our foods, from the pesticides that kill these bacteria that make that transition, to the potassium-based fertilizers that take up the plants in lieu of taking up magnesium and calcium. I mean, this causes true agricultural soil depletion.
So you're saying then, I mean, to explain this, is the commercial fertilizers, the potassium-based fertilizers, block the uptake of magnesium and calcium into the plant.
Yes.
This is crazy. This is why large commercial farms produce vegetables almost completely devoid of magnesium. And then our lifestyles deplete magnesium even more. So you've got bad farming, commercial food processing, antacids, diuretics, caffeine, alcohol, etc. They all decrease magnesium absorption in the body. So for these reasons, the modern human needs more magnesium and gets less, which leaves a lot of people chronically depleted and chronically depressed.
So our modern lifestyle has left people magnesium depleted.
So let's go clear back to 2013. This is from a peer-reviewed journal called Pharmacological Reports, Magnesium in Depression. Again, it says, magnesium is one of the most essential minerals in the human body, connected with brain biochemistry and the fluidity of neuronal membranes. A variety of neuromuscular and psychiatric symptoms, including different types of depression, was observed in magnesium deficiency. And here's the most important discovery of this article. Plasma serum magnesium levels, the blood levels,
do not seem to be the appropriate indicator of depressive disorders. And remember, magnesium has to get into the brain, so you can't rule it out that they have a brain magnesium deficiency just because they have plenty of magnesium in the brain.
Yeah, and even our magnesium lactate does not get into the brain. The standard process magnesium lactate is great for peristalsis and smooth muscle relaxation, helps a lot of different things.
Helps with a lot of
but it is not, it
constipation.
does. Yeah, constipation, but it does not get into the brain.
Yes.
But the Easy Mag does.
Now the study continues here. The emergence of a new approach to magnesium compounds in medical practice has been seen. Apart from being administered as components of dietary supplements, they're also perceived as the effective agents in the treatment of migraine, alcoholism, asthma, heart diseases, arrhythmias, renal calcium stones,
kidney stones,
premenstrual tension syndrome, etc.
Just a ton of things. So it's not just depression that it helps with.
Yeah. And it says the mechanism of antidepressant action of magnesium are not fully understood yet. Most probably the magnesium influences several systems associated with the development of depression.
Yeah.
The first information, the study continues, the first information on the beneficial effect of magnesium sulfate given hypodermically to patients with agitated depression was published almost 100 years ago.
Ta-da!
Magnesium is widely connected with brain biochemistry as well as the fluidity of the neuronal membrane. Thus, a variety of neuromuscular and psychiatric symptoms, as in hyperexcitability, agitation, tetany, headaches, seizures, ataxia, vertigo, muscular weakness, tremors, irritability, anxiety, insomnia, nervous fits, fatigue, confusion, hallucinations, depression.
All of these were observed in magnesium deficiency.
Yeah,
and all of them were reversed by restoration of normal brain magnesium levels.
Yeah,
not serum, not blood levels, but brain magnesium levels.
And so the diet of depressed people appears to be impoverished in magnesium. These are really strong words for a peer-reviewed journal in this last decade. And so it continues. Just a couple more excerpts here. Quote, low magnesium level in the body may occur due to defects in its absorption.
The gut.
Ooh,
yes. We're going to get to that.
Or as a result of its renal loss. For example, in case of diabetes, alcoholism, treatment with antidiuretics, aminoglycosides like streptomycin, or fluoroquinolones like Levaquin and Cipro.
Ooh, those are bad.
Will greatly decrease the magnesium levels in the brain. That is from a peer-reviewed study. Yeah. I'm not saying this.
Yeah, you were reading that. And it's also been proposed that the transfer of large amounts of magnesium from mother's blood to fetus with other nutrients may contribute to the occurrence of postpartum depression.
That makes perfect sense. She's being depleted in magnesium because that developing baby needs it.
Sucked it all.
And sucks it out of the mother.
Took it all from her. So
the takeaway line is this. Plasma serum magnesium levels.
That means the magnesium in the blood.
Right. Does not seem to be the appropriate indicator of depressive disorders. Only in the CSF.
If it gets into the spinal fluid.
So serum magnesium, blood test levels of magnesium is not an indicator of brain levels of magnesium. You can only determine that through examining the cerebral-spinal fluid. Then, excuse me, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Then in PubMed, Journal of the American Board of Family Medicine, 2015, found this little conclusion here. We found a significant association between very low magnesium intake and depression, especially in younger adults.
And it's not just about depression. It's really helped epilepsy.
Now, before you start epilepsy, let me say this. I can't count. I know I sound like a broken record when I say this. I can't count the number of mothers who are very distraught over their teenage daughters, who have all kinds of what seems to be increasing mental issues. They get up in the morning, and if they have any breakfast, it's a piece of toast, maybe some orange juice, lots of sugar between the two of them. They go to lunch, they may skip lunch, or they may have a bite of something. And then they come home for dinner, and they push the food around on the plate, eat a couple of bites, because they're scared to death of getting fat. Where is the magnesium in all of that?
There's none.
There's none.
Yeah.
So
even if they're eating the vegetables, because they're not grown in magnesium-rich or mineral-rich soils. So
let's go on with epilepsy.
If you look at SeleneRiverPress.com, you can just go there. It's the
historical archive. SELENE
Celine River Press.
It's a book publishing company.
Yeah, it's for Standard Process because Standard Process is not allowed to sell any of Dr. Royal Lee's writings. It's just unbelievable. So they had to create this whole new company, Celine River Press. If you go to their historical archives, you'll find 100-year-old studies on magnesium and brain disorders, including epilepsy. Dr. Royal Lee published clinical studies on magnesium depletion and epilepsy way back in the early 1950s. Magnesium was always widely connected with brain biochemistry. And they reported all were reversible by restoration of normal brain magnesium levels.
Yeah. Now, here's another study, Magnesium in Health, Alternative Treatments for Epilepsy, June 8th, 2018. Dr. Lewis B. Barnett's work started, and I'm reading from the article here, started with studying magnesium and bone structure, but came across the significance of magnesium and the central nervous system. He discovered that which had been forgotten but was discovered 100 years ago. He found those that suffered from epilepsy had a deficiency of magnesium in the central nervous system.
He turned his attention to a little 4-year-old boy. The boy took anticonvulsive drugs, but the drugs didn't work. The parents decided that their child may have to live with this condition for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so Dr. Barnett started treating this boy with magnesium and a thyroid extract.
We're just reading from the article.
So within 2 weeks of the start of this treatment, all signs of epilepsy had vanished. Within 2 weeks.
Yeah, the child showed no signs of the condition from then on.
And then Celine River Press's historical archives, you'll find articles on brain disorders, epilepsy, and magnesium deficiencies. Now, here's another peer-reviewed journal, Medical Hypothesis, in 2006, written by a Dr. George Eby. Quote, rapid recovery from serious depression using magnesium treatment. And this is, I'm quoting from the study. We have shown efficacies, as have others, in treating depression and some related mental disorders with magnesium. The occurrence of depression 100 years ago was rare, occurring primarily in the elderly. Only 1% of Americans born before 1905 developed depression before they were 75 years old.
They had good topsoil.
While 6% of Americans born in 1955 developed depression by the time they were 24.
And that's 1955. Can you imagine what it is now?
Oh.
Yeah. And they're giving antidepressants to little kids now.
Yeah.
So,
and then the study continues. It goes on to say that magnesium is equivalent to an antidepressant drug. And it works well, of course, with no side effects. Quote, related and accompanying mental illnesses in these case histories include traumatic brain injury, headache, suicidal ideation, anxiety, irritability, insomnia, postpartum depression, cocaine, alcohol and tobacco abuse, hypersensitivity to calcium, short-term memory loss, and IQ loss were also benefited.
Wow.
Also, anxiety, irritability, confusion, asthenia, which is just losing the ability to feel anything, sleeplessness, headache, delirium, hallucinations, and hyperexcitability.
Yeah.
And the possibility that magnesium deficiency is the cause, of most major depression and related mental health problems, including IQ loss and addiction, is enormously important to public health. Yeah, here's some examples. Mary, why don't you do that one?
We should be studying this, but here's one. A 35-year-old woman having 3 children followed by severe postpartum depression in each case was given magnesium to take each meal during her pregnancy to prevent the postpartum depression after her 4th pregnancy. Antidepressants had previously had some beneficial effects, but side effects were worrisome to her.
Yeah, because it's getting in her breast milk.
Yeah, and, well, when she's pregnant, too. So part of the decision to take magnesium was her desire to prevent preeclampsia, also a known but often ignored magnesium deficiency condition. Whoa. I didn't know that. The 35-year-old woman...
I didn't either.
Yeah, the 35-year-old woman delivered her baby on schedule without developing any aspect of postpartum depression, preeclampsia, or any other illness associated with pregnancy. And the baby was healthy, full weight, and quiet.
Yeah.
Nice brain.
Here's another one. This is from the studies.
Combine that with iodine, too, and I think you would have an incredible pregnancy. Okay.
A 23-year-old woman who had 5 years previously suffered traumatic brain injury and lost much of her short-term memory and some of her IQ suddenly became severely depressed after experiencing long-term stress due to several stressors related to a poor diet, work, constant noise, and especially because of very poor academic performance after having had excellent grades prior to her brain injury. Antidepressants had beneficial effects, but her concern about side effects caused her to switch to magnesium. She was given magnesium to take with each meal and at bedtime. After 1 week of magnesium treatment, the 23-year-old woman became free of depression.
1 week?
1 week.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly, her short-term memory and IQ also returned.
Wow.
Benefits only previously shown in rats when immediately treated with magnesium after traumatic brain injury.
What do they do? Hit the rats on the head?
With a hammer.
Yeah.
Here's a normal rat. Whack! Okay, now
Give him some magnesium.
Now it has traumatic brain injury.
Oh, that's terrible.
Now, when we find out it can't find its food, start giving it magnesium and see what happens. However, her mental acuity returned nearly immediately upon magnesium treatment, even though the trauma had occurred 5 years earlier.
Now, these are in the study. We're not making these up or we didn't get these in the mail. These are in the study we're reading from. Here's another one. A 40-year-old man, irritable, anxious, extremely talkative, moderately depressed, and heavy into food, tobacco, smoking and chewing, alcohol, and cocaine, took magnesium with each meal at bedtime in an effort to relieve his symptoms. The man found himself free of his symptoms within a week and unexpectedly found his craving for smoking, dipping, cocaine, and alcohol to disappear also. It seemed that magnesium deficiency caused his habituation. He also noticed that his ravenous appetite was suppressed and beneficial and desired weight loss ensued. That's cool. This
totally
could help weight loss.
Now, one more. A 59-year-old man experiencing life-saving benefit from magnesium. The first night after starting magnesium, sleep was restored essentially to normal. Within the following 4 days, depression was greatly reduced for 4 to 6 hours after each magnesium dosage. Anxiety steadily disappeared. Headaches rapidly disappeared. And on occasion, 2 a.m. doses were also required to maintain a feeling of wellness.
Wow, getting up and taking magnesium.
Over the following months, normalcy was maintained only by frequent magnesium ingestion. A normal life free of depression was difficult to maintain without frequent magnesium treatment until kefir.
Yay, the gut.
Yeah, a rich source of beneficial intestinal flora and inulin.
Which is in our pre-symbiotic,
Yes,
prosymbiotic.
and is vital for magnesium absorption. And indole-3-carbinol,
which is found in Swiss chard.
was added to his diet. These ingredients, these nutrients, seem to stabilize the beneficial effect of magnesium, perhaps by improvements in intestinal absorption, digestion, and immunity. After incorporation of these agents into his diet, total wellness occurred, which was easily maintained with much less magnesium.
So the takeaway is that when he got his gut healthy, he was able to take much less magnesium.
Right.
So, and I don't know, this was not the whole food magnesium that Standard Process has put out, but getting the gut healthy, as we're going to explain here in just a minute, you absorb magnesium in different parts of your small intestine.
Right,
and,
right.
And depending on the health of your small intestine.
And the form of the magnesium.
And the form. This is why it's so important to take a whole food product. Because remember, the truth pops up every 30 or 40 years only to be disregarded by the establishment of that particular field of health.
What?
Yeah.
A mineral can get rid of depression?
Yeah.
That'll ruin our whole depressive pharmaceutical industry. We can't have that.
Yeah, it's the old stuff. Enzymes in cancer, which we talked about, autoimmune diseases, those. Dr. Lee discovered those and they forgot it promptly. Calcium and infection and childhood diseases.
Yes,
I mean, who hears or knows that when your child is sick, they need calcium?
Yeah, or whether it had to do with whole food vitamin C and diphtheria and some of the other pure scurvy conditions.
Which they don't even talk about with vitamin C anymore.
We keep rediscovering. We keep rediscovering things, and then we think it's original. Oh, look what I found. Yeah. I've discovered air. Everybody thinks when they find it, they're the original ones, and then they realize that it was discovered before they were born and completely explained before they were born, and then it was lost.
Yeah, just today we got a letter. Somebody was, sending us this in confidence about herpes. They discovered they had herpes, and it was just the genital herpes, not the kind on your mouth with cold sores. And, it just blows your mind where you wrote him a wonderful letter stating this has probably always been in your body. And calcium. Calcium is the most antiviral nutrient in the world. And was he told of this?
Anybody tell him? No, they gave him acyclovir.
Yeah, an antiviral medication which just destroyed his gut and made him so much worse. So this is what the Forbidden Doctor is all about, to bring these back to life. And usually we can find most discoveries in Dr. Royal Lee's writings back to the early 1930s. And remember, this great man is why we named our Lee enzymes after him, our long life energy enzymes. So Easy Mag has 20 plus different magnesiums in it. It is the ideal, and it looks like it's the only way to get these nutrients into your brain.
Yes.
Because Standard Process has done the studies on higher level studies on animals and even in humans, where they studied the cerebral-spinal fluid and have found significant magnesium levels. So this product, Easy Mag, it's berry flavored. It tastes actually really good, and you just rip up the stick pack, mix it in about a half a cup of water, and shake it up and drink it down. I'm thinking of putting it in my Mary's milkshake recipe.
I think that would be a great idea.
Help everybody with depression. I think maybe I'll take out Sire Food, which is half Catalin and half Calcifood. So I'll leave the Calcifood in there and put this in the place to help people with depression. Plus, it tastes really good, so they wouldn't have to put a bunch of sugar in it while they rebuild, cleanse, and restore their body.
Yeah, and dosage is just one stick pack per day. You and I have a stick pack at night before we go to bed. Mm-hmm. And many people have asked the researchers.
The Standard Process researchers.
Yeah, if they could take, if that's good, a lot more must be better.
Yeah.
Can we take 2 to 3 a day? And the researchers said that there's a limit.
They feel there's a limit.
Yeah, the body can only absorb so much magnesium per day up to a limit inside the brain.
Yeah, so you don't have to take more than one stick.
And people feel better within minutes. They feel better physically, not the brain or depression. They just physically feel better.
Yeah, don't go crazy with it. Just one stick pack a day for brain and mental health. But it does have a lot of potassium in it, so it will also help to slow down tachycardia. So for that, we talked to Standard Process. They said 2 a day might be fine if you have severe
you're suffering from rapid heartbeat.
Yeah, severe tachycardia.
And 6 consecutive days is enough to have this 20 plus multiple forms of magnesium able to absorb through the blood-brain barrier and start helping with depression.
And the president of Standard Process sent his son, who takes a ton of Standard Process, is extremely healthy. And, these really healthy people, they don't really notice much difference when they start a different supplement or whatever, because they're healthy. And it's his young son. He's super healthy. He said he didn't tell him anything about it, but his son took the little stick pack right away, and about an hour later sent a text to his dad saying, "This Easy Mag is amazing."
Yes.
So side effects, none. Just wonderful reports so far.
Yeah, well, you can't have side effects from food unless you're eating the wrong
Swiss
food.
chard and buckwheat leaf.
So multiform magnesium has so many different magnesiums in it. Everybody wants to know which form is the one that absorbs in the brain. Well, it's different for every single person. Certain forms are absorbed, as Mary said, in different areas of the digestive tract.
Yep.
So your microbiome absorption is very personal from one person to another, just like your fingerprint.
Yeah, and so Standard Process's whole food philosophy is demonstrated really well in this product because it is just whole food.
And we have been recommending magnesium lactate for a long time now, and we will continue to do so because it's just to raise the levels of blood magnesium, which will help the bowel with peristalsis, but it will not help depression or getting magnesium through the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, this could be one of the most successful products Standard Process has ever had. I mean, depression is rampant.
Yeah, the WHO this year said from 12 years on, 13% of the population is depressed. So it's a perfect complement to whatever supplement. Only pros. There's no cons, no issues with pregnancy or lactation because it'll be in your breast milk. And believe me, your baby's brain needs it.
Yeah. So there's a couple questions people have had so far. You may have more. Please leave a question at the bottom of this podcast. But does this cause loose stools? So Standard Process looked for bowel intolerance, and it did not appear. Even if they took 2 to 3 sticks at a time, they did not report any loose bowels. I haven't noticed any. Have you?
No.
From taking it? That's because it is not a concentrate of magnesium by itself. It's magnesium in its whole food chlorophyll complex form. This is raw, crushed Swiss chard, and buckwheat leaf.
Yeah, and there's great A, E, F, and K, the fat-soluble vitamins, in Easy Mag as well.
Yeah, this is a fantastic beta-carotene supplement, a vitamin A precursor. Has lecithin in it. It's high in organically bound potassium, which is critical in controlling heart rates. Like I said, for tachycardia or high pulse rates.
Yeah.
Would be really good for this.
Another question that was asked is, why did Standard Process choose Swiss chard and buckwheat? Well, you want something with an abundant leaf space, something with big green leaves like comfrey, beet leaf, or Swiss chard that has large chlorophyll, dense leaves.
Yeah, grown in great soil.
So you can plant acres and acres of these huge leaf fields, and it's the plant's ability to be able to absorb enough magnesium in the right percentages because their surface area is so large.
So to recap, you have to take a form of magnesium that will cross the blood-brain barrier. And again, Standard Process does not know which one of the magnesiums in the product does this because it's just whole food. So
and the soil that SP grows their plants in for Easy Mag are from glacial residues with a very thick topsoil that contains an extraordinary amount of minerals and magnesium. And you cannot get this from commercial Swiss chard or buckwheat leaf, and probably not even in organic plants, because organic does not necessarily mean 8 feet of topsoil.
Yeah.
Organic just means that they did not use pesticides or commercial fertilizers. And it does not mean that the topsoil is 8 feet deep.
Or full of minerals.
Yeah.
So another recap is magnesium is absorbed in different areas of the small intestine, so you need to have a healthy gut.
And most magnesiums that are sold in the marketplace will increase blood magnesium, but they will not get across the blood-brain barrier and will leave the brain deficient in the antidepressant action of depression.
Yeah. Magnesium has been shown to be very effective in not only helping to improve depression and suicidal states, but it's also been shown to stimulate weight loss.
Weight loss. Yeah. I think I'm going to move to 2 packs a day now.
I don't think that will help. Just one a day.
And last but not least, magnesium has no suicidal or homicidal side effects, as you will find in the label warning of drugs that are being prescribed for depression.
So it is a 100-year-old remedy that is so much better with no side effects for depression.
Yep.
There's no reason not to try it and see what happens. And as we listed, many other symptoms are helped from this. So if you stayed to the end of this podcast, we told you we would give you a coupon. And guess what? The coupon is for Easy Mag.
Oh.
So if you go to our website, forbiddendoctor.com, and purchase Easy Mag, when you check out, use the coupon MG15. MG15 for magnesium. And you'll get 15% off the product.
And even if you've done it before, don't forget to do our free symptom survey we offer at forbiddendoctor.com. If you're having a problem with the very thing we talked about in this podcast, at the bottom of the survey, there's an area where you can write in some stuff. You just put in depression or you know.
Anything else you're suffering from.
Yes, and we'll give you the protocol that we've listed, personalizing it just for you based on the questions you've answered in the symptom survey. It's unique to you.
And many of you may be finding us for the first time. Keep in mind the protocols on our website and what we're talking about are only available to logged-in users, but you can create an account instantly by taking our free, no-obligation symptom survey.
Understand the survey saves you money in the long run because you're not going to be taking supplements you don't need. That, you just ran off at some whim to get this or that because somebody else likes something. Let's design it specifically for your symptomatic picture.
You may not even need Easy Mag. So that's why you save money if you do the symptom survey.
And at this point, up to this point, it's still at no charge to you.
And remember, your patronage of our offers keeps this podcast on the air. The statements made in this podcast about specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging or this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals.
So thanks for listening to this forbidden information in our Forbidden podcast. Join us next time for another in-depth discussion of forbidden knowledge.
We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. If you are curious about long life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com or get our enzyme formula from Amazon.com by searching the full term Long Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.